What's going on, folks? Dan here, and today I'm going to be once again mixing my two favorite universes, the My Hero Academia universe with the DC universe. This video is not at all a theory, it's not at all a fanfiction, but it's something I've wanted to do for a pretty long time. I've put a lot of thought into which villain and or hero from My Hero Academia would be granted admission into each Lantern Corps of the DC universe. But before we get started today, remember, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And be sure to let me know in the comments if you're into this kind of thing. If you're not the commenting type, just throw up a like. I'm sure you guys will let me know. Anyways, alright, so for this video, I'll give a bit of backstory and be by going by the colors of the rainbow. Each color of the rainbow represents a different Lantern Corps, and each color represents a different emotion. Oh, and one last thing, they reside within something known as the emotional spectrum. If you don't know the acronym for the rainbow, it's Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, after the murder of his family during the massacre of Sector 666 at the hands of the Manhunters, who were created by the Guardians of the Universe. These big blue-headed dudes, they're the Guardians of the Universe. They're responsible for like a lot of the misdeeds throughout time and space in this universe. But anywho, Atrocitus' condensed hatred and rage for the Guardians of the Universe gave birth to the Red Lantern power battery, and his hatred led him to murder the 4 remaining people left in his sector, and their blood created the first Lantern Ring. Now the thing about Red Lantern rings is, when they latch onto you, you become a Red Lantern, and the ring essentially makes your heart explode, and your blood kind of what people say spoils. And afterwards, their blood can also be used as some like weird plasmidic weapon. It's kind of strange. Also, Red Lanterns cannot create constructs. There was only one Red Lantern that was able to create constructs, and his name was Rancor. I don't know what's happened to him since then, but he was actually a human Red Lantern. Additionally, without Atrocitus' shamanistic abilities, the Lantern is pretty much doomed to become a little rage monster, attacking and killing everything they see. And the requirements of becoming a Lantern of Hate? I've been saying it the entire time. You have to have great hatred or rage in your heart. So while Atrocitus is a Red Lantern because of his despair evolving into an unquenchable bloodthirst, you have somebody like Kara Zor-El, also known as Supergirl, who at the time had an estranged relationship with her cousin Superman, and after fighting in space for 6 months, she returned to Earth and simply found out that life just moved on without her. And during a fateful encounter with the bounty hunter Lobo, the experience fighting him gave her the chance to unleash all of her pent-up rage towards the fact that she has felt like an outsider since coming to Earth after Krypton's explosion. This moment made Kara, a general force for good, a magnet for a Red Lantern ring, meaning that you can draw a Lantern ring from this core towards you for just constantly feeling responsible for something or feeling like you're just being left behind in a way. This leaves me to believe that the only candidate worthy of a Red Lantern ring in the My Hero Academia universe is Katsuki Bakugo. Already an extremely volatile person, what makes Bakugo a prime candidate for the Red Lantern Corps is that he hates being usurped, he hates being opposed, and he hates being left out and underestimated. Additionally, he's very quick to blame himself. He lets anger stir inside of him instead of vocalizing it, which eventually results in him just exploding in a range of emotion. So if there's anyone who's a little rage monster full of hatred, it's Bakugo. Next up, the one I actually had the most trouble with trying to find somebody, the Orange Lanterns. This lantern ring harnesses the emotion of greed, or more specifically, avarice. Avarice means more than monetary gain. It can revolve around power, materials, or in our candidate's universe, the need to be number one. The Orange Lantern Corps is exceedingly strong, with most Lantern Corps' respective powers being virtually useless against the orange light, with the exception being blue and purple. There are quite a few drawbacks, with the main one being that there's usually only one member of the Corps at a time because the Lantern Ring tends to make you so obsessed with avarice that you tend to become a paranoid psychopath. The one constant wielder of the orange light is an ancient being only referred to as Agent Orange, but later on he's kind of a little bit of a comic relief character and his name is Larfleeze. Larfleeze doesn't have any other people in his Corps, so his actual constructs act as his Lantern Corps. As for who I'm choosing in the My Hero Academia universe to be indoctrinated into the Orange Lantern Corps, this one, like I said, had me thinking a lot. I could cop out and give it to All For One, because his quest of eternally seeking out the strongest quirk is kind of something that we just know. And one day I was like, oh, I should give it to Overhaul. His avarice literally caused him to abuse a little girl, just to return the Yakuza to its former glory. When one night, right before I was about to go to sleep, it just dawned upon me. The greediest dude in My Hero Academia, Endeavor. Besides the fact that his greed to become #1 has literally acted as his main drive, his personality and personal life would more than befit someone like him of wearing the orange ring. The guy literally had 4 children in the quest to create the perfect quirk. At least All For One had the common decency to kill people and turn them into dolls. This guy straight up threw away children once they showed zero promise. So when it comes down to your own greed being your downfall, and your greatest power, it'll absolutely have to go to Endeavor. Next up, the Yellow Lanterns of the Sinestro Corps. Founded by Thal Sinestro after harnessing the yellow light of fear with the Cordian Lightsmiths, the Yellow Lantern ring acts as a counter to the Green Lantern's ring emotion, Will. In older comic books, one of the main weaknesses of the Green Lantern, besides the wielder of the ring themselves, was simply enough the color yellow. One time, Batman and Robin colored themselves yellow and actually almost killed Green Lantern on the spot because yellow was his weird weakness. But this was due to the actual physical embodiment of fear known as Parallax merging with the Green Lantern's central power battery, giving birth to this weird weakness. With each bearer of the ring, one requirement must be fulfilled in order to access the true strength of the Corps. You must be able to instill great fear in others. Like Red Lanterns though, users don't have to be a chaotic evil, because while Sinestro is a big-time villain, someone like Batman would have an easier time using a Yellow Lantern ring than a Green Lantern ring because his own tactics rely heavily on the usage of fear. So as for the person who would receive it in My Hero Academia, it would absolutely have to go to the hero killer Stain. Stain's quirk Blood Curdle is one of the more terrifying quirks in the series. I know, being disintegrated probably isn't a great way to go, but imagine being stabbed to death while someone drinks your blood and makes sure that you can't move. Stain is the type of guy who plays with his food. He was taking his sweet-ass time with Native when the kids from UA encountered him, and he had every intention of not killing Todoroki and Deku. It wasn't until the tables turned and he turned on his Ultra Instinct that he was ready to kill, and by then, he was already way too beat up from underestimating the teens. And after he escaped custody to kill the Nomu and save Deku, his demeanor itself caused a group of like 8 people to freeze in fear. That moment itself would have Stain eligible to get a ring on the spot. Okay, next up, Green. We're pretty much at the halfway point now, and my guess is if you saw the thumbnail, you know exactly who I'm going to be choosing for the Green Lantern ring. But before I go into it and say the obvious, here's a short little backstory on the Green Lanterns and their Corps. Created by the self-proclaimed Guardians of the Universe in their second attempt to quote-unquote save the universe after their epic failure with the Manhunter program, which annihilated all life in Sector 666. I talked about them more in the Atrocitus part. The Green Lantern ring harnesses the green light of will. The Guardians of the Universe instituted a certain requirement for its members. The being that was chosen for the Green Lantern Corps must be fearless, or at least that's how the requirement was portrayed in the beginning. In time, with the War of the Green Lanterns and Kyle Rayner's introduction into the Green Lantern Corps, it wasn't a question of simply being fearless anymore. To enter the Green Lantern Corps, you had to be able to overcome great fear. That was the true requirement. Also, the reason why I keep on saying being is because my favorite Green Lantern is Chazalon, a Green Lantern who looks like a disco ball. As for my candidate for the Green Lantern Corps in the My Hero Academia universe, a common thread set amongst all heroes in this universe is that one deserving to be a hero moves without their minds even realizing it. Their bodies just react. This is a prime example of the main requirement of the Green Lantern ring, and Izuku Midoriya aka Deku is the prime example of a person overcoming great fear to do what nobody else could do. Despite not having a quirk, he ran out to save someone that at this point was more or less just a middle school bully. His true moral compass aligns with the Guardians of the Universe, who are themselves emotionless creatures, and as such, they would deem him a prime candidate for the Green Lantern Corps. Because when it comes to willpower, this guy pushes himself to the limit daily. Everybody is sleeping, he's running laps. He throws 1000% into everything that he does. He dedicated his life on the spot to become the greatest hero ever when he was given the chance to inherit One For All. And when he did, he grabbed his dream and turned it into a goal. Alright, now we move on to my favorite Lantern Corps, the Blue Lanterns. First things first, the Blue Lanterns are the strongest Lantern Corps, period. They're able to empower any lantern of any color. They're able to quench the bloodlust of a red lantern, bring calm and sate the appetite of endless greed for an orange lantern ring, and the Sinestro Corps, they pretty much just get their rings depowered around them. It's pretty much impossible to beat a Blue Lantern. The Blue Lantern's only weakness is a Blue Lantern losing hope. How the Blue Lanterns even came around, the Guardian of the Universe known as Ganthet never casted away his emotions, and behind the Guardians of the Universe's back, he created the Blue Lantern Corps. When he originally brought up this plan, they rejected the idea because the blue light of hope was way too raw, it's way too broad. Hope resides within every single emotion on the emotional spectrum, but Ganthet went ahead and constructed the Blue Lantern power battery anyway. And the first Blue Lantern was Bro D. Walker, a holy man whose home planet of Estonia, with an A, not the actual sovereign country of Estonia with an E, had hours left to live before the sun exploded and took his planet with it. Despite the hopelessness and everyone around him looting and murdering for common resources, he continued his preaching much to the chagrin of his family. His religion put him on the path of seeking out the Messiah to his people, and the final test of his hope consisted of him climbing a mountain that nobody else had attempted to climb. But at the top, the person, who was known as the Believer, would find the Messiah. During this trial, Walker's hope is tested, as well as his faith, and when he reaches the summit of the mountain, there was nothing there but a blank stone pillar. And as Walker began to question and forsake everything, it began to rain, and in the stone pillar, he saw his reflection. He himself was the hope. He descended down the mountain, given the clarity that preaching hope was the one way to salvation. He must continue preaching his mantra of his religion, all will be well. Everyone continued to ignore him though. The world was ending and this guy's sitting here just preaching. But when the sun was too close to the planet and the people were exhausted, the only one who wasn't was the local preacher, Bro D. Walker. They had no choice but to sit and listen to Walker, as all that they had left was hope. His preachings brought peace to the people, and suddenly, he was able to inspire hope within his entire planet. Afterwards, the nearby sun began to revert to its younger form, a blue sun. When suddenly, from the depths of the sun, the Blue Lantern ring appeared to Bro D. Walker, stating to him that he had the ability to instill great hope in others. And with his ring welcoming him by saying the words that he loves to say, all will be well, Bro D. Walker was no more, and Saint Walker was born. As for the person in the My Hero Academia universe who would get the Blue Lantern ring, well, for me it's kinda obvious. It's the brother of All for One, the very first user of One for All. This guy is somebody who poured all of his hope into one simple belief, that his successors would continue the fight against evil. In a way, One for All itself is a symbol of hope that gets passed down with each successor. But the brother of All for One to be born with such a weak quirk and to entrust the power to another demonstrates the utmost example of hope. The original user had the strong belief and the strong sense of justice that the fight needs to continue. So what does he do? He plants seeds in the ground for a garden. The weirder Lantern Corps is at that. Put it this way. First things first is they can use all of the colors within the emotional spectrum without having to channel that particular emotion. 2, being the rub pretty much, is that it pretty much brainwashes those who don't willingly accept the Indigo Tribe's beliefs, as the Indigo Tribe's light is that of compassion. They can also teleport across galaxies, which is awesome too. But the most notable thing about every single lantern of the Indigo Corps is that in a past life, they were actually somebody who lacked compassion. So in order to be indoctrinated, I literally mean that, indoctrinated, into the Indigo Tribe, you have to be one of the most heinous people to ever walk the planet. Like, I'm talking genocidal maniac. What the ring does is cause the person to feel the compassion that they've never felt, causing them to never choose sides, and when they do, they usually act for the betterment of the emotional spectrum. The most notable Indigo Lantern is Indigo 1. Her name is Indigo 1 because when you become an Indigo Lantern, you pretty much let go of all worldly possessions, feeling nothing but compassion, which means that you pretty much don't care about your name anymore. And Indigo 1 is actually one of the most heinous killers to ever grace the galaxy. She actually killed Hal Jordan's predecessor's daughter, so she's a pretty big bad. But now she's a good guy. Or she's just somewhere in the middle. Either way, my candidate for the Indigo Tribe within the My Hero Academia universe has to absolutely go to All for One. The guy lacks all forms of compassion, and as such, he's ruined people's lives with reckless abandon. He stole bodies of children and turned them into high-end nomus. He's ripped the spinal cord and brain out of people to steal their quirk and maintain their mind at the same time. Like, this guy molded the next symbol of evil from his arch nemesis' grandson. The guy is the epitome of everything evil. His nickname is the symbol of evil, but that enough would be more than enough for the Indigo Ring to seek him out. Upon my research, I found out that there was this psychologist and editor of a book called The Psychology of Superheroes. The person's name is Robin S. Rosenberg. They say that compassion is being able to have empathy for somebody, but you have to maintain enough distance to understand their motivations. So in a way, it would kind of be an eye-opening situation for someone like All for One. Granted, if he removes the ring, he kind of forgets everything about being in the Indigo Corps, and would immediately go back to being a megalomaniac, murderous, psychopath. But he could learn a thing or two by being taken by the Indigo Light. But now it's time to move on to our last Corps. The Violet Lantern Corps, better known as the Star Sapphires. They were created by the alien race known as the Zamarons, and when the source of their power, the Star Sapphire, deemed too strong to control, they eventually created the Central Power Battery. Later, some Guardians of the Universe showed up because the Guardians had decided to cast out all emotion, and instead there was like a renegade sect of Guardians that instead of casting out all their emotion, they decided to accept all emotion. They wandered the universe, and eventually they came across the discovery of the planet of Zamaron and their power embracing love. The thing about the Star Sapphires though, since they're on the far end of the emotional spectrum, the Star Sapphires can be influenced very easily. But they have some pretty awesome abilities. They can give a target back their life force by drawing on a target's love for the Star Sapphire, as well as teleporting to their one true love, and the big ones being that they pretty much don't have a weakness to any of the Lantern Corps, and they're able to just absorb orange constructs like it's nothing, pretty much making them one of the strongest Lantern Corps. You don't beat Blue Lantern though, just saying. And the main drawback of being a part of the Star Sapphires is that the Star Sapphire tends to make the person go a little bit crazy. As for who gets the ring from the My Hero Academia universe, it's gotta go to Labrava. Labrava's quirk is literally love. It powers up the person that she holds the greatest affection for, albeit for a short amount of time, but it's still one of the first quirks that directly affects the performance of another person, not to benefit the user. If she learned how to enhance multiple people for a longer amount of time, or manipulate them while they're under the effect of her love, she could actually be one of the strongest villains in My Hero Academia. Her love for Gentle is a prime reason why the ring would be immediately attracted to her. And hopefully, it wouldn't turn her against the man that she loves, because the Star Sapphire tends to do that. And if you don't take off the ring, you tend to become one of the Star Sapphire gems themselves, so it's pretty much a doomed fate. But yeah, that's the 7 people that I believe would be deserving of the Lantern Rings from the DC Universe. I know if you guys follow, I didn't do Black, White, or Ultraviolet, but if you guys like this video, I'll be sure to make sure that video gets done. There really isn't much on Ultraviolets because they are a pretty messed up core, but that's pretty much it. Other than that, this is Dan, and in trying times, I'm telling y'all, all will be well. Peace.